Hello and welcome to this week's Football 360. This week's guest is Kenny Lowe, who is a real household name in Australian football now, having been the head coach of Perth Glory in the A-League for about 4 or 5 years, and most recently having worked with the national team, working with Graham Arnold and Rennie Mullenstein. He started his career in the game as a player in the North East. He played for Gateshead, played for Barrow, then went to Barnet with Barry Fry, where they won promotion to the Football League, and then went on to Birmingham and Stoke City. So he's played at pretty much every level of the game. Fantastic experience as a player. By all accounts, he was a very creative midfielder, a very individual player with the kind of skills and qualities that you don't necessarily see from midfielders these days. He's kind of knocking 40-yard passes for fun, driving with the ball, great ability to kind of lose an opponent, and real individual skills that, as I say, you don't necessarily see these days. He became a player manager at Gateshead and then went on to manage Barrow, which is where I first came across him. Very successful 3 or 4 years there before he moved to Australia, initially with his job or for a job with his family, but he then subsequently went on to develop a fantastic reputation as a player developer and coach, running the Western Australia Talent Centre. Some of the best footballers in Australia's recent history have come through that process. Have gone on to represent the national team and play for top clubs in Europe. So he's influenced a lot of young players in Western Australia and around the Perth area in particular. He then went on to become assistant coach at Perth Glory before being appointed head coach, where he stayed for 4 or 5 seasons in the A-League in Australia, became a real household name, and his journey is just one that for me is quite inspirational. He's a real fun guy, a fantastic person to talk football with, really passionate about the game, and obviously can call upon experiences from so many different aspects of the game and so many different levels. So I'm really hoping that you enjoy it. I think this is going to be one of the best ones we've done.
Hello and welcome to Football 360 1-to-1. I'm delighted to have Kenny Lowe all the way from Australia with me today. Kenny, how are you doing, pal?
Yeah, good, thanks, Deb. Yeah, very good.
Top man. Looks like you're very relaxed there, and it's a nice backdrop as well you got.
Yeah, just stuck in the garden away from the kids and the dog, mate. It's the only place I could find.
Looks all right to me. So I've introduced you already, so let's go straight into it, pal. I'm going to start off with a bit of a warm-up, get the juices flowing, so to speak. So to start off with, your favourite player ever and why?
Glenn Hoddle.
Glenn Hoddle.
Just an amazing footballer, and I think highly undervalued in our country. But I think he went to play. I think he went maybe to play for Wenger at Monaco.
At Monaco, yeah.
And I think the things that come back from there, people just couldn't believe how good he was.
Yeah.
But yeah. I actually played with his brother Carl at Barnet, and I used to pester him like hell. Say, get me a shirt. You know what I mean? But no, Hoddle for me. Hoddle was my absolute idol.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a kid growing up in the 80s, I remember the goal he scored against Watford, particularly where he dropped the shoulder and chipped Steve Sherwood. That goal just kind of epitomises class, didn't it?
We played with Steve at Gateshead. And we used to joke about it to him. You know, all the time we used to wind him up. A lad called Paul Proudlock. I don't know whether you know Proudy.
I've played against Proudy a few times, yeah.
He's the funniest lad I've ever met in football. Proudy used to have Stevie's life, but he's a good guy, Steve. Top guy.
Nice one, good stuff. Okay, favourite team ever and why? Could be, current, historic, whatever.
United was always my team. And I'm
from what 11? What 11? What particular 11? And why?
Not really, just Man United. And like I always say, like no one can say that I picked them when they were top. I think it was like the 80s when Tommy Dock was there. And I think they got relegated into the old First Division. I think Dennis Law scored a back heel. And relegated them. So that was my era. With Willie Morgan and Gordon Hill and the Greenough brothers. That's kind of just the team in general, the club. Yeah.
Before the Glory Boys got involved.
Before money went there. Yeah.
So what 11? What particular team? Any team in history. So it could be United team, could be any team that, for you, from a footballing perspective, is your favourite team to watch, or just sticks in your memory?
Yeah, I remember being away in Oz actually when I was quite young, and the World Cup was on, and France were playing.
Yeah.
Gires and Tigana, Platini, and all those guys, and I think that for me was so much flair, so much quality. Being a midfield player, you looked at those players, it was the perfect, one was a dribbler, one was a runner, one was an artist, just unbelievable footballers in the French team. And I think that for me was probably one of the big teams, the teams that I can remember. You know what I mean? Class,
yeah, I love that. That's a new answer on this one. We've had a few answers over the with let's say Pep's Barcelona team from 2009. Obviously some of the Ferguson teams and what have you, but that's the first time anyone's mentioned the French team, and it's quite coincidental because they're doing reruns of the World Cup over here at the moment, or sorry, in the UK, should I say? And they had the France, was it France Germany? No, or was it Brazil? France Brazil, I think, with Joel Batts from '86. So it would have been about that time the other day, and there's a lot of people talking about it. I remember being allowed to stay up as a young kid. My dad let me stay up and watch it.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, top team. Okay, right. Here's one little bit left field. So you've got two squads of players, the best players in the world across. Let's say the best 22 players in the world. You can manage one of those teams, and the other team is managed by someone who's got to get a result. Who would you pick to get a result in that one game from any manager in history?
Ferguson.
Yeah. Good answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. He's ruthless.
Yeah.
He builds teams. He evolves. He changes.
Yeah.
He's like a chameleon. He's lasted for many years and been successful right across. And probably won his best championship with his worst team.
Yeah.
Before he left.
Yeah.
As though he was saying, right, I don't care, I'm going, but I'm still going to fucking win it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, unbelievable. Absolutely. I mean, people overlook that a little bit, don't they? That, like you say, he had a fairly weak squad and still a winner, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he evolved. He brought different coaches in.
Yeah.
McLaren, Brian Kidd. You look at across Rennie Muhlenstein. All across the board, he brought different people in to invigorate the environment and also to learn. He was comfortable at bringing other people in. He was comfortable in his own skin. He surrounded himself with quality.
Yeah, love that. Great answer. Okay, final question before we get into the main part of the interview. Can you tell us a little known fact about Kenny Lowe that not many people will know?
As a kid, I got offered an apprenticeship. I was 16, 17, leaving school with Blackburn.
Yeah, with Blackburn?
My old fella said I wasn't good enough. And he wouldn't sign the indentures for me to go. And he got me an apprenticeship in an engineering company. And I served my time for 4 years. And the way I got into football was through Hartlepool. I actually answered an advert in a newspaper. I went for a trial. And I got picked in that trial.
Brilliant. What a story that is.
Amazing. And there was 3 or 4 lads at that trial. There was a lad called Phil Brown who ended up going on to who coached Hull City.
Yeah.
Brownie was a sparky down the pit, and he was at that trial. And another lad called Andy Linnigan who played for Leeds and Arsenal.
Yeah.
I think Andy was either a plumber or a joiner with Hartlepool Council.
Wow.
And he was another lad at that trial. And we all ended up signing and playing for Pools.
Unbelievable. I mean, Linnigan. I mean, he won trophies at Arsenal, didn't he?
Oh yeah, a double win in Arsenal. Went to Norwich, played at Leeds. Top shelf.
Unreal.
Good lad as well. Yeah, really good lad.
Quality. Nice one. Brilliant. Kenny, that's great. Great start to the interview. Let's get into it a little bit. So, I mean, the first thing I want to ask you about is your time in Australia. Obviously, you've spent how long there now, or this spell? 40?
I came back about 2003, so probably 16, 17 years now.
Okay, 16. Wow, long time. So, for the benefit of a lot of the people who watch this and listen to the podcast, Tell us a little bit about Australian football from the perspective of someone who's spent, most of his life in the game in England.
Yeah, very difficult. Loads of constraints on geography.
Yeah.
You've got longest away game is Wellington for Perth. Obviously, that's a 10-hour journey, 2 flights, that's 2 5-hour flights. So an hour at the airport before, 5 hours roughly into Sydney, an hour and a half in the airport in Sydney, 3 hours into Wellington. Then you've got to be there an hour and a bit before the flight. You've got to travel an hour to the airport, probably some guys.
Yeah.
And at the other end, it's probably another 45 to the hotel. So if you wrap it in, it's something like a 10 to 12 hour journey just for that game.
Right.
Every away game, a lot of them say, again, I'll use Perth as a reference. It's a 5-hour flight, 4-hour flight. So every week, it's like playing Champions League without the Champions League.
Yeah. It's like
playing in Turkey every week for an away game. So there's the constraints on travel, on obviously geography, and also it's not the biggest sport in the country. Obviously, AFL, you've got real competitive elements. You've got unbelievable tennis, unbelievable Aussie rules, cricket. The world champions, and then you throw in all the athletics and the swimming, and generally they've got world-class entities, athletes in all of those things who are taken away from the football pool. You'll find it's a big the demographic of the game. It's got the biggest grassroots biggest grassroots participation in the whole of the country.
Right. Okay.
So it's growing unbelievably. The professional league is only, I think, maybe 10 or 12 years old. So it's a really young league.
Yeah.
It's a vibrant environment. Some really good young players coming through. A lot of boys playing abroad.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good place to be. A coaching environment and coach education, very, very good, because they've cherry picked a lot of good people from Europe.
Yeah.
And a lot of the local coaches have had big careers abroad and then have come back. You see Ange Postecoglou in Japan, who's been unbelievable. You got Tony Popovic, who was at Crystal Palace. He's top shelf. Graham Arnold, he's the national team coach now, another top coach. Other guys like Stevie Corica, who played at Coventry and stuff. He's probably one of the top boys here. Ufuk Talay played in Turkey for Besiktas and Benfica, I think.
Yeah.
So really top boys and quite young, good coaches who really want to play the game because of the weather and the pitches. It's warm, the pitches are beautiful.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to play.
Brilliant.
Everyone tries to play. So it's a
so
good environment.
You think the future's bright then for Aussie football then? I mean, obviously, an emerging sport to a more mature.
Like everywhere, it's got its problems. And they're at a state now. They're at a stage now where I think they're at a crossroads. If they make the correct choices, they'll grow.
Yeah.
I think they all hark back to the golden generation. It's the 2006 World Cup, with Harry Kewell and Lazaridis, people will know back home, all those type of players. Some Bresciano, who's playing at Italy.
Yeah.
Top players. And that kind of hark back to that. And they're trying to ask, why did we get that? But it's very difficult here. It's very difficult for young players to get game time. And what they're saying is that the golden generation all played games when they were young because there were opportunity. Now the young players here, there's not great opportunities for them. So they're saying that's probably the hindrance. They need to bring a second division in. They need to bring promotion and relegation in.
Yeah.
They need to find a pathway for younger players to play with the best at the best level and get game time. So if they can sort those things out, they've got a real chance.
Brilliant. It's interesting to hear that Australia's facing some of the same challenges that England's facing, though, with pathways for young players and going back to the kind of let's say that even reserve team football and the opportunities that gave young players, that perhaps those opportunities aren't there anymore, and they're trying to address it obviously with various solutions. But it's a similar challenge by the sound of it.
Yeah, very much so. And you find that a lot of, probably I'm seeing a lot in the UK now, that the guys are actually turning contracts down to stay at big clubs. I just saw a young lad the other day, I think it was at Arsenal, no, Tottenham, and he turned it down. He went to the MLS. I think he was captain of the Tottenham under 18s, and he said no. They offered him Mourinho offered him a pro contract.
Yeah.
And he went, no, I'm going to go and play MLS for Thierry Henry. It's not a bad choice, like Thierry Henry, you know.
Not bad, not bad.
He's gone there, and he's played all the last season as an 18-year-old. And you see the boys going into Germany now, you know, like the young boys, they're quoting 100 million for the winger.
Sancho,
yeah. So everyone's looking at that and thinking, hey, you know, I don't want to play under 23s in front of 5 men and a dog.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, I think that's a hallmark of development, or the hallmark of progress, really, because if these young players have now got one or two kind of examples that they can follow, like Sancho as an example, because we used to have a lot of players in Europe, didn't we, in the 80s and 90s. You know, some of our top players went abroad, and all right, they're younger now, but you know, if they're going to Belgium to play, they're going to France, to Spain, to wherever. You know, that I don't think you can buy that game time and the experience that they get with that game time. Maybe take it back to the UK when they're ready.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, good stuff. So, okay, so you talked a little bit about it being a great coaching environment, Kenny. I knew you as a manager back 20 years ago. Where do you sit? How do you see yourself in terms of your identity as a manager, as a coach, as somewhere between the two? How do you feel?
I think I gravitate in both camps. I've got some good qualities on one side and good qualities on the other, and some deficient stuff that needs to be worked on, obviously. But I think for someone who was not interested, I was 39, I think, playing at Gateshead. In the conference, and Jim Platt was the gaffer.
The old brother.
And Jim got released. I think we were already relegated with about 8 games to go. 10 games to go, and I was the oldest player at the club, and they just said, look, we're not paying any money, but you can take the team for the last 10 games in the conference. So I went, oh, do I have to? Okay. And I thought, well, this is going to be my last contract. I'm not going to play anymore. And I took it for 10 games at Paul Proudlock, actually. And I had a ball, and I was 39, never entered my head. And at the end of the year, they just said, look, do you want to take it next year? And I went, you know what, I will. And that was the first time. I was 39-year-old, no interest, and got involved in coaching. No badges. And so from that point in time, that's kind of the journey, if you want to call it that. I kind of thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to try and do it properly, you know. 2 years at Gateshead was great fun, great set of lads. Absolutely mad, you know, leaving Gateshead, travelling all down south, you know, like 5-6 hour coach journeys, you know. I wish I kept the journal. I've never had so much fun.
I bet.
Played with so many crazy lads, but no, it was enjoyable.
Brilliant. And were you playing at the International Stadium there?
Yeah, I played there.
That was a challenge, wasn't it? I mean, I never enjoyed playing there as a player, so I can't see it would have been that nice for people there week in, week out.
No atmosphere. You know, chasing the balls. You know, you needed about 2,000 ball boys to keep the ball on the park. You know, get any type of that. But no, it was good. Great club, good people, and that kind of got me hooked. So I would say in the early days, definitely a manager. You know, definitely like try to look after people, take care, get the best out. You know. And really try to make sure the lads enjoyed themselves. You know, I want the players to enjoy it. I want the players to play without fear. I want the players to play with risk. You know, and to be attacking, score more goals. That, like for me, it was always score more goals than the other, not don't concede any. Still got that to a certain extent. And then as you get on, you start to learn a bit more, and you think, did I actually used to do that? You know,
as we all do,
and then got more into the tactical and the technical, and then understood the hard stuff. You know, your physical, your tactical, your technical, and then the soft stuff, the emotional, the lifestyle, and trying to balance the two. So yeah, quite interesting, really interesting.
Definitely. And so back in them days, I mean, I can't remember who your assistants were at the time. Was Lee Warren maybe assistant?
Lee played. Lee was captain, probably. Lee Warren was captain. Paul Proudlock, Paul Dobson, Sam Kitchen,
Oh yeah, big Sam, centre half. Yeah.
Johnny Watson, fullback. Goalkeeper was Simon Smith, who's now Newcastle goalkeeping coach.
Right.
So like really good group of lads, all crazy. Paul Thompson, another good player.
Oh, Tomo, yeah, played against him a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Tried to sign, at the time I always remember trying to sign a lad who went to Runcorn and ended up Lee Trundle.
Oh yeah, yeah, he was at Bamber Bridge. He was at
and then he also played for Runcorn.
Yeah.
Top players, good lads, good standard. Really enjoyed it. Philly Wilson, I think, was at Hyde as a gaffer.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Rowley was at Marine. Do you remember?
Rowley Howard, yeah, legend.
Yeah, all those, unbelievable. But I had a great time, and it evolved from that really.
Yeah, so good grounding for what you went on to do later on. Because I mean, back when you were at Barrow, I mean, I felt, listen, you've been to places I can only dream of going in a footballing context. But I remember going to Barrow a couple of times and looking around and thinking this is not far off a football league set up in some respects, maybe, but bottom end, but the crowds, it was, you got quite a big catchment area, so you were getting 1,1400. It felt when you turned up at Barrow like it was pretty serious.
Yeah, I think if you think both clubs, Gateshead, I played for a long time as a player, so people knew my kind of personality and other stuff, and I had 5 years at Barrow as a player as well.
Did you? Right, okay. Wow.
Yeah, with Ray Wilkie.
Yeah.
So again, in the trophy-winning team, we won the Northern Prem, went into conference. So I had 5 years there. So again, everybody kind of knew that type of background, type of person I was, and again, went into Gateshead in a crisis time.
Yeah.
Relegated, and then Barrow was a massive crisis because they, I think the owner was, I think the owner at the time was kind of arrested by the police, and the whole club fell apart. Yeah. I think Stevie Vaughan looked after it, and I think it was another guy, I can't remember, Warren Curtis or Curtis Warren or someone like that was the main guy. Yeah. And basically I left Gateshead, which is a great club, and went to Barrow with no league and no players because they got through out of the league. They didn't have a league. I think we came into the league my first year after 12 games.
Yeah.
In the Northern Prem. I love the crisis.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. It's, you probably learn more in those situations than you do when you're comfortable. So good stuff. So you got to Oz, and the identity in terms of your role in football started to evolve a bit by the sound of it. I mean, I know you went across there with a job, and then managed to kind of develop and use your experience, I guess, to develop a fantastic career in Oz. So, I mean, what was that like in the early days in Oz?
Yeah, just arrived with no idea really of getting involved in the football side. Came, like you say, for a job. But bumped into people. I came when I was young, about 22, 86, something like that. And I played a year. And when I came for the job, a lot of the guys I played with then, who were 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, were similar age to me, but were involved in football over here. So kind of involved and hooked up, and then all of a sudden I was involved in the local game, but more so looking after like juniors from maybe under 13, 14 through to maybe 16 for like a Lily Shaw type.
Centre of excellence type thing.
So basically, Australia have got a centre of excellence, which is the AIS in Canberra, and then the Australian Institute of Sport, and then each state had their own Institute of Sport, which identified elite supported players and then helped them to try and get into the institute. So I ended up looking after the West Australian Institute and running that for 12 years. So working with kids from, like I say, maybe 12-year-old, 13-year-old through to 15, 16. And then it grew a bit and it got into the local leagues. Yeah. So we ended up having a team from the under 13s all the way through to a senior team. But the senior team, they were all under 18.
Okay.
So full spectrum all the way through. And the amount of players that come out was brilliant. Really, really good. So I got involved in that. And kind of from that, your reputation starts to grow when you see players we got players playing for the national teams, under 17, under 20s, under 23s, lads in the Socceroos.
Yeah.
Three of that group have been to World Cups. Lads have been to Bayern Munich, into Milan, Liverpool. You know, big clubs. So
Wow.
quite a successful program, really.
Brilliant. That's amazing story, that. And during that time, obviously, you've kind of, I guess, you know, first of all, you work in a completely different environment to going to Marine on a Tuesday night, for example, in the Unibond League. It's, you know, you're out there on the grass, the sun's on your back, and you're working with young kids. I mean, it must have been a great experience in terms of, you know, your passion for the game and probably ticking different boxes.
Yeah, big. It was, you know, it was so enjoyable because I don't know, because we had no one overlooking us. We basically, it was superb. And then the guys who ran it just said, look, there it is, go and run with it. And we set the programs up. We kind of decided on the philosophy, the way we go about, where we treat the kids.
Yeah.
You know, like straight away, it was just like create an environment. We created an environment where everyone wanted to be. It was great fun, but demanding also, but in a good way.
Yeah.
You didn't accept second best. You actually, the talented ones, we rode harder than the lads who we could see maybe weren't going to make it. And the lads who we didn't think made it, they ended up having careers as well, because everyone just kind of went this way. It was really enjoyable, really enjoyable. And we're still close now. Even now, there's lads that 27, 28-year-old. I get text messages off. I text them. It's quite, you know, it's really how can I say, you know, it's something that it makes you feel warm. You know, you can walk into a pub 10 years later and still have that connection. It's quite special, really. It's more than football.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, you know, spoken to you a couple of times this week, pal, and obviously read up a little bit on you, and the legacy, you know, is a word that I've read a couple of times, and for you to go over there and have such a big influence on particularly Western Australian football, you know, that's something I'm sure you're very proud of, and rightly so.
Yeah, fun.
Sorry?
I had some fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So, onto kind of, you know, managing in the A-League. I guess the stakes, you know, a bit higher. You know, I remember watching a couple of games at the time, and you going daft on the sidelines, and you know, really, you know, there was a lot of media exposure. Obviously, I mean, it's a huge thing over there, and I remember just looking, thinking. First of all, I thought it looked like you were having a ball, and you were right. You know, even if your face didn't always show it, there was angst on there at times, but it really looked like you were really, you know, really engaged. And I think I looked at the crowds and I looked at the whole setup, and I just thought, what an incredible opportunity that must have been for you in the early days.
Unbelievable experience, to be honest. I'd actually spent 5 seasons as an assistant there, but I did it part time. I worked in the office on the morning, then I go to the Glory and be an assistant. Then I go back to the office, and then after the office ended, then I go and do the NTC, the institute. So I'm actually working 3 jobs. So, and then the Glory assistant became full time, so I stopped work, but I still did the institute.
Yeah.
So that kind of how can I say, kind of give me a little bit of a grounding. You know, you're working with lads like Robbie Fowler. Robbie Fowler was at the club. I was an assistant. And imagine say, hey, Robbie, Robbie, can you stop a second? I don't think you should make that run. I think you should make that run. You know, he looks at you cross-eyed. You know, but he was absolutely brilliant.
Class.
An absolute diamond of a guy.
Yeah.
Top guy. But we had another lad, Amaral. He played for Brazil. Played for Parma and Brazil. And Victor Sakura played for Holland and Ajax.
Yeah.
You know, these are the guys you've got in the team that you're coaching. And then I kind of left that, so I had a bit of a grounding. And then when the next coach got sacked, they asked me to come in as part time, as an interim for 3 months. Yeah. I thought, you know what, bollocks, I don't care. They're going to go and get a big coach. I'm going to have a party for 3 months. You know what I mean? I'm going to really enjoy myself.
Brilliant.
And William Gallas was the captain from Arsenal, France. And like, I remember the first meeting, he was at loggerheads with the other coach, and he wouldn't play. He got a hammy, and the coach was trying to force him back, and he was saying, no, I'll come when I'm ready. And they had a bit of a fallout, so he just went, right, I could probably come back in 4, but bollocks to you, I'm coming back in 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, the coach went, and the owner said, "Look, you've got to go and speak with William." I went, "Okay, yeah, no problem." So my first thing was to speak to William Gallas. Brilliant. And like I thought, I'll Google William Gallas. And then the first thing that came up was a photograph of him sat on the post when he didn't go in at half time. I think that was Wenger or Mourinho. I can't remember. We didn't go in. He was pissed off. And then another time he'd had a big fallout. So he's fallen out with Wenger and fucked him off. He's fallen out with Mourinho and fucked him off. And he's me, an under-15s coach, coming to my first gig. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do here? I've got no chance. So I've just gone in. We met for a coffee. Still remember it like yesterday. Shook his hand and like, yeah, okay. I said, hey, coach. I said, William, before we start, mate, I've said, you fucked Wenger off. You fucked Mourinho off. I said, what chance have I got? I said, just come on. Let's have a smile. 3 months party and let's see where we go. And he just went, well, I like you.
You'll do for me.
That was it. We're off. Away. And that's kind of, you're dealing with those people on a different level. It's football's this much and the rest of it is that much. That's what I've found going through, you know. But yeah, really interesting.
Which, to be fair, for given your journey, you've dealt with people like Barry Fry, you've dealt with all of the challenges that your football career and your career, your life had given you up to that point. You're probably as capable of dealing with a human being in that situation as anyone is. But in a football context, there's so much more pressure on it, isn't there?
Yeah, especially because you've got to win games. That's the big difference between the youth and the, you want the best for the youth. But you still, deep down, you're still a youth coach because you want the best for the players. Yeah. And you know what? Players, what I found as well, even at that level, they want more. They want to learn. They want to get better. They're just the same as youth players, except they've got an opinion. Yeah. Yeah. And they're probably a little bit more cynical. They won't take anything at face value. They'll question it to a certain extent. So they're exactly the same, but with more layers. Yeah. And you need to be a little bit sharper in the things that you ask them to do to make sure that there's reasons behind why are we doing this? Yeah. Because of that. It's got to stack up. You can't do it for the sake of doing it. You can't put a session on just for the sake of a session. Yeah. It's got to be succinct. It's got to have a purpose and a meaning and a reason behind it. And that's what I've kind of found working through with the senior players. But I was so lucky. The people. Gallas was brilliant. He'd come in early. He'd leave late. He'd work his socks off away from. He'd have physios going to his house. Yeah. He'd have strength conditioning going to his house just to get right, to get better, to get fit. He was a top guy, a top fella, and a top player.
Marvelous.
That opened my eyes on professionalism.
I bet. Yeah, I mean, he's done it all, hasn't he? I mean, not only incredibly talented player, but he French, playing with some of the best players of a generation in that French team, incredible. Yeah. So.
And he had some great stories.
I bet he did. My God. One thing that occurs to me as you're saying that, Kenny, and I feel quite strongly about this, although I can't completely prove it because I've not really worked in those environments, but I have an impression, and speaking to people in the game, and having observed it, I've been into a few clubs and what have you with pals who've been very good to me. I feel that there are some managers who work at first team level who are a little bit afraid to coach the top players or senior players. And then I think that there are coaches who recognise that first team players, the senior players, need to be coached on some of the minute details, some of the most simple things to reinforce or to tweak or to fine tune. And the example that I've given a couple of times in these interviews, the likes of Tony Pulis is an example, right? Whether you like Tony Pulis or you don't like Tony Pulis, or you're somewhere in between, he goes on the training ground and he will move in let's say he's doing some 11v11 work, as I think he tends to do quite a lot of. He will go and he will move a seasoned professional with 300 or 400 Premier League games under the belt 2 yards and tell him this is where you need to be so you can open your body to deal with this situation that's developing in this area of the pitch. And those fine details from this is feedback from players as well. Once they've done that a few times, they realise the benefit and what's in it for them. And those are the coaches who generally, Guardiola does it as well. You see that sometimes it's maybe a bit for show. He goes out on the training ground, he's pulling people left, right, and centre. He's saying, "You come here." But do you get the point I'm making?
Yeah, I think the big thing is that all players want to know in the 4 moments of the game, where should I be and what should I do when we got it?
Yeah.
Right? What should I do? Where should I be when we haven't got it?
Yeah.
What should I do? Where should I be when we've just got it?
Yeah.
And what should I do? Where should I do when we've just lost it?
Yeah, in the 4 moments. Yeah.
And if you can be really clear, and they understand what you're after, and then they try and execute that, that's absolutely fantastic. And the other side, the other good thing is that when you're flying and when you're going well, that can go out the window.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, because you'll know yourself from your time that it doesn't matter what you do on some days, you're just in the flow.
It's working,
it's just
yeah.
happening. Yeah. You can get your left winger ended up on the right wing, delivering balls, scoring goals, and and you don't get hurt by him being out of position defensively. Yeah. Some days happen like that. You take them and enjoy those days. But it's the days when the shit hits the fan and it's not get so good that you revert to type. Okay, it's not a good day today. Let's do what we know does work. Yeah. Let's try and execute how we want to play. Yeah. And I think if you can not be regimented, but give people that information really cleanly, crisply, and with as very few words as possible, so it's concise, then you're halfway there. And you don't have to labour it. And you don't have to, but I definitely agree, there's got to be a plan. Yeah,
that's it. Because I think the days are gone where Cloughie, for example, might say, "Well, listen, I don't need to worry about what we're doing today because I've got the 11 best players out there." The game's so competitive now at every level. Every opponent knows what you've done in your last 6 games. Every opponent knows the inside leg measurement of all 16 of the players that could get involved today, or 18 or whatever it is. So for me, it feels like everything's kind of condensed in terms of how competitive football is at all levels, across the world. So then them details now become so critical. You can't just leave it to chance.
Yeah. And I think that the top guys now, they drive it on personality.
Yeah.
Klopp's a personality. I mean, if he said, there's a wall, jump over it, I'm sure their players would say, "Well, Gaffer, how far do you want me to jump and how high do you want me to jump?"
Yeah.
Given they'll do it. But also I look at them and they're not, I don't believe that they're like formation driven. I think they're driven by principles and strategy. In that, what I mean, if you play 2 up top, they'll work it to get the overload. So they'll rotate to a 3. No, whether it's someone drops in the middle of the 2 centre backs, whether it's a number 6 that comes off the side, whether a full back stays and the other full back inverts. Yeah. I think they've just got strategies and principles to say, we want the ball on this side to suck people in, and then we're going to flip it over the other side and we're going to get overload there. Yeah. And I think that's the way the top guys go. That I think they educate their players to provide solutions as the game happens. And I think that's the way the game's evolving for me. Yeah. Even in your training sessions, it used to be, I know years ago, like I'd be, top, stop, like I want you to do it. No, you condition your training now to create the situations for players to solve problems.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of way it's evolved, where if you can do that, people, you're not stopping the session. You might have a drink and get something on the tactics board, talk through a little situation, and then go back in again. But what's happening is the players are on the ball. They're enjoying the session. They're actually working out solutions to problems. And also I find as well, a lot of the times before is we'd give people a problem, but we wouldn't provide a solution.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got to break down their back 3. Or come on, we've got to play out from the back. Yeah, we've given everyone a problem, but we haven't given them a solution. Yeah. And that's what I find now is that as I've evolved, because I've been fortunate to work with some really, really good people, you start to think about the game differently. Not the game differently, but how can you help people to grow, get better, and understand? And that's kind of something that's been the next level of my journey, if you could understand that.
Yeah, I honestly, you've just summarised some of the changes in the game in the last 20, 30 years so well, so articulately. That was a brilliant kind of overview. One thing that I was on fantastic at the moment. It was an awful time for the world with this global pandemic, coronavirus and what have you. But there's lots and lots of more discussions around the coaching agendas all over the world that are online at the moment. I've been involved in a few webinars and stuff like that. And with one I was on a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about problem solving and how you do that in the context of a game, or particularly the half-time situation. Can you actually solve a problem with a player in that 15 minutes? And I my view on it, and I'm more interested, I'm sure that our viewers are more interested in your view, but I'll give mine first, is that 99% of the problems you can't solve there and then. You need to go away and look at yourself as a coach and work out what scenarios you're creating on the training ground to ensure that player understands what they need to do in that situation, back to your point before. Because you can give them a bollocking, you can throw teacups at them, you can get the tactics board out, but reality is that it's noise in a high pressure situation that isn't the right environment to learn and to change and to adapt. Of course, you need players who can adapt on the pitch, but your job as a coach is to find the way of setting your environment up so that the next game, that problem isn't there anymore, and it's your responsibility as much as it is the players.
Yeah, I found, like, if you could find something at half time that works, so at the end of the game it's worked, you find that people, because then they walk away and they go, wow, that worked. That. So I always used to look, what's hurting us, and what's helping us. So I'd only look for maybe one or two things in each little category, and say, like, what's hurting us, what's helping us, and then what are we not doing that could benefit us? So those three little areas.
Yeah. So tactically, you're addressing it as is your responsibility, you and your coaching staff. But the players themselves, in terms of actions or execution and stuff, it ain't going to change there and then, is it? It's like you say, it's them type of situations.
The best thing I've ever seen is, I was fortunate enough to, like, again, you need resources and you need experts. Yeah. But I'd gone to the Asian Cup with Australia as an assistant with Graham Arnold and René Meulenstein. Yeah. And they've got a guy, Dougie Corge, who's an analyst. And right. We obviously, they'd analysed how certain teams had played, and then they would, like, say, this is what we want to do. We need to get into those little positions. This is how we're going to hurt them. Always come up with a plan. It was always about us, not us, but about the team to do better, not about the other team, but about, and it would be brilliant. And then coming at half time, he'd have three or four clips that he'd picked and said, look, if we can get there, if we can get here, if we can do only three or four, and then there'd be like 3 or 4 little clips. Would be a 20-seconder, bang, bang, bang. That's what we can. That's not what we're doing. We asked us to do that, but we just need to go move 5 yards there if we can. Play off his shoulder, play behind him, or drop 5 yards here. So basically, they've got an instruction and an idea, and then they'll go, this is what we've asked you to do, and it's going fucking brilliant. And then they'd bull them up, and then they'd say, this is really outstanding. So you've gone from the little bit of criticism that makes us better. This is what we're not doing. Yeah. This is what we could do. This is what we are doing. So by the time you've left, you had 20 second, 20 second, 20 second, 20 second, 20 second, 20 second, 20 second. You're feeling good about yourself. Yeah, so you've kind of been a little bit of a slap. Yeah. Built you up. And just before you go out, hey, remember, you're doing that brilliant. What about that? Brilliant. Yeah, and you go away. And honestly, for me, wow. And the amount of times that the quality came because they recognised, I just need to go and play off his shoulder. It might be just the other side of their defensive sixes. Yeah. We're picking the ball up this side of the sixes when really we're all outside the block. We're not hurting them. Let the centre back do that. Play that side of them. And so if you can pick those little things up and the work, say it works and you get a buzz from that, but they remember that. So the next time you talk, they're engaged. Or they even go, hey, have you seen anything? They're asking because they know that you've seen previously. Provide a solution. They're going, oh, what do you think? They're hungry for that information then, aren't they? Same thing. Youth team footballer. Makes no difference. Just the same. Aaron Moy played in the Premier League. Exactly the same. No difference.
Brilliant. That's great. Great. I mean, it's a great example, and obviously the teamwork required for the technical staff to put all that together and to make it seem like, you know, this is just a process that's well developed. It takes a lot of hard work to dovetail properly.
And good people who really know. Like the lad who's the analyst, Dougie Cause. I think he's on Twitter. Should have a look. He's better than some of the coaches I've worked with. He's unbelievable, man. He's top shot. Top shot.
Brilliant, mate. Great story. Great. It's some fantastic anecdotes you've got. So let's move on to players a little bit and the evolution of the player. I'm going to read you something now, and it's going to make you laugh. All right. Now, the guy who wrote this might not be an authority on football. It might not be qualified necessarily to the highest level, but what he said about you as a player when you're at Barnet is brilliant. So he said, with ball tricks, pinpoint 40-yard passes that any ordinary player could only dream about, plus the ability to completely bamboozle a marker with super fast body turn and flicker the ball reminiscent of Johan Cruyff at his peak. That's his summary. Was
that the old man?
I don't know. You must have paid a few quid for that. I don't know, but no. I think I never really saw you. I never really saw you play, pal. I think I might have seen you trap a ball on the sideline a couple of times. Maybe that might be the extent. But it sounds like, and it was really interesting. You chose Glenn Hoddle as a your favourite player, because it sounds like you were a player with real flair and individuality in the midfield. You mixed it up. Who would sometimes drive at a ball, sometimes pick big worldy, big Hollywood dives out your backside. But real quality, real individual flair. I don't see midfielders like that these days. My take on that is that part of that is about the tactical evolution of the game and the fact there's less space to play in, the physicality, some of the advances in that aspect. But I as a coach, I want to see individuals with personality on there, whether they're a centre-half who wants to go win it, whether they're a full-back who wants to get crosses in and dominate that area of the pitch, whether it's a centre-forward who really values the qualities that good centre forward should have. I don't see that individuality anymore, and it sounds like you had that as a player, and I want to understand what your view is on that, how you feel about me saying that about you as a player, and how you think that you as a coach kind of addressed this situation.
I've probably got every manager sacked for being like that. No, listen, you know what? I was so fortunate to play for the people I played for, and I think I stayed there because of those people. Like when I was younger, I was a kid at Hartlepool, and I played for a guy called Kenny Sutherland, and top guy, not here now, but yeah, just loved footballers, just encouraged you. There's another guy, a coach, when I got in the senior team, Mick Doherty, Tommy Doc's son.
Yeah.
He gave me a pro contract and really encouraged me, with another guy called George Smith. And then I left that and went into non-league. But the people I played for in non-league just embraced me. Ray Halliday at Birmingham Town, then Ray Wilkie at Gateshead and Barrow, and then Barry Fry. And those people I played from probably 16 all the way through till I was Dave Hodgson at Darlow.
Yeah, ex-Liverpool player.
Odgie. Yeah, Odgie was top shelf. Yeah. So those are the guys I played for, and all characters, all crazy, and it kind of, they were my type of people. But you look back, you think maybe you could have done a little bit more if you weren't so pig-headed and stubborn, which I was.
Yeah.
Which in a way wasn't a team player. Probably a bit very selfish as a player. I remember being at Barrow, we won 4-0. I'm throwing my boots against the wall. Yeah. And Ray Wilkie's going, "Oh, poor Kenny, he hasn't got a meg in today or a 40-yard ping." You know what I mean? And I guess that probably because I had that mentality. That's the way I play. That's quite strong mentally,
Yeah.
I won't bother.
But that's again, I try not to be. It was like this in our day. I try, because the world changes, and if you don't change with it, then you're going to get left behind. Yeah. But I bemoan the lack of players who go in the dressing room and are disappointed. You know, when they win, when they lose, when they draw, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But I bemoan the fact that they can put things behind them so quickly, and I don't expect them to take it into their personal life afterwards. But I want to see standards. I want to see desire to be the best they can be. And when I don't see that, I find it hard. And for you to do that when you're winning 4-0, for me as a coach, I'd be looking at it and saying, he wants to be better. And I'll have a bit of that because you're setting the bar for other players. And I don't expect every player to act like Kenny Lowe. There might be Gary Bull or someone like that who's with you who doesn't really take that example. But you've got to set that example for other people in the dressing room, in the environment you're in.
And sometimes as well, you'd take too much risk because of the way you were, or you'd try certain things too often. But it wouldn't bother me. I'd go back, get it again. Someone once said to me, I always remember, they're saying the brave people are the ones who go and get the ball and shank it in the trees, go back and shank it into the trees again, and go back and shank it into the trees again, who don't give a toss. They just want the ball. They must, and take in any area, at any time, at any moment, under pressure. Doesn't matter. And like I was one of them. I used to moan like hell at people, you know, to get the ball. Give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball. And I know at one stage I actually got sent home once from a club because the players used to complain because I moaned too much at them.
Yeah.
And the chairman said, look, the lads don't want to play with you. So they sat me at home on gardening leave. And then I got the gaffer's job. And then they all changed the tune.
Yeah, that's a quick shift in power, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But so you recognise that from your own experience. How do you nurture that individuality in players these days?
Take away fear.
Okay.
Take away fear. You like the biggest thing with me is like I will get more upset if you do not try the things that we've spoke about, then that if you try them and make mistakes. Yeah. I've got a little saying with my kids, like, you need to get comfortable at being uncomfortable. Yeah. And then once you're comfortable, go and look for some other challenges that make you uncomfortable. And bit by bit, you don't have enough that break you, and you don't have too little that it's like cigar time. Yeah. You've got to find a level that fits you and then be uncomfortable, whether it be public speaking, whether it's degree. In football, it's whether you're playing against someone who's quicker, faster, stronger than you, or you're playing against a team or in a team that's better than you. You know what I mean? Or you're playing in a team and you want that person's shirt, but he's better than you. Or you're playing against someone in your team and he's better. You know, how do you manage that to grow and get the other side? Yeah. And for me, you take away fear. If there's no fear and you're cared for, you can have a relationship, you can have dialogue. And then as a player coming to me as a gaffer, I'll be devastated if he feels that he can't come to me as a gaffer and be honest and open. Because ultimately, like, I just care. I just want, it's not for me, it's for you. I want you to be absolutely the best you can be and have the most amount of fun along the way. You know? Yeah,
I'm with you. Yeah. So in the UK, the English academies, I think they're producing a lot of 10s instead of centre forwards, a lot of central defensive midfielders or tight midfielders, as I call them, who don't necessarily, they're good working in little triangles, they're good working in rondo type situations because they're so used to being coached that way. But then when they're given a lot of space, they don't really know what to do with it so much. I mean, how does that resonate with you over in Oz? Are you seeing players like that as well?
Yeah, I think the way now, everyone goes pass. Yeah. Who are the best players in the world? Yeah. Who's the most expensive youngest player in the world now? He's at Dortmund, the kid we spoke about. Yeah. What is he? He's a dribbler. Yeah. What's Messi? He's a dribbler. What's Ronaldo? He's a dribbler. Yeah. What's I don't know, like the Liverpool boys. What are they? The dribblers, mate.
One v one specialists.
X factor footballers. Yeah. And we've stopped creating X factor footballers because we've gone pass. Yeah. You know, just create dribblers.
Yeah. So you seeing that in Australia?
Yeah, I think you see it. The best players in this league here, foreign. We've got a guy, Diego Castro, I actually signed at Glory. Yeah. He played at Getafe in La Liga. Yeah. Best player here. Unbelievable footballer. He's 37 now, but I signed him. He's 31, 32, 5 years. More than 5 years ago. He's 31. Unbelievable. Top of his game. Wanted to come. And I got a video. Actually, I got a clip. He scored a goal against Real Madrid with his left foot in the top corner, and he scored a goal with his right foot against Barcelona in another game in the top corner. And I said to the person who sent me it, I said, "Are you having a laugh, mate?"
How are we going to get him?
We aren't getting this guy. Has he had a leg chopped off? You know what I mean? The only way we're going to get him if he's had a leg off.
Yeah.
So no, he wants to come and a change of environment for his kids.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So this guy, we sign him. He is dribbler, unbelievable, top person, humble, everything that a player should be. He is. And the other guy's a lad called Ninkovic at Sydney, and I think he's Croatian. Been to 3 or 4 World Cups.
Yeah.
With Croatia, I think it's Serbia or Croatia, one of the two, Baltic, but top player, just like Castro.
Yeah.
Dribbler, sees things, plays things, scores like sliders, just top shelf. And they're the best footballers.
So, and given what you said before, there's no second tier in Australia. There's a lot of pressure on the first teams. For me, the fear, it sounds like the environment there for progression is a blocker for the development of Australian talent.
Big style for the younger players. The best young ones go abroad.
Yeah.
But play youth football.
Right.
Abroad, you might go to England, and play at 23s or whatever. You've got 5 foreigners in each team. So straight away in each team, only 5 Aussies can play.
Yeah.
The best Aussies play abroad.
Yeah.
So you've got the likes of
Matthew
Ryan at Brighton. You've got Aaron Moy, I think they're Brighton. You've got Rogic at Celtic, I think, with Azani at Celtic. I think Boyley's at Hibernian.
Right.
You've got a few boys in France and Spain, maybe Croatia, Saudi Arabia, Korea, Japan. So the top lads are away.
Yeah.
So then you get the foreigners come in. You get the second level lads and the younger lads play in the A League, and the older ones who are kind of retiring. The younger players, the 23s. You look at the national under 23 team, who are going to the Olympics and have done really well. But their game time, I think some lads have had something like 170 minutes game time all season.
Yeah. You
play against Korea, who are the top, and like their players are getting 400, 500 minutes.
Yeah.
The whole squad's got 3,000 minutes.
Yeah.
Australia's got under 1,000. Yeah. It's like so difficult for them guys to break through.
Yeah, so that's it. I mean, it's more about, because you can have generations where you get spikes and a bit of talent or whatever, or something that you can't necessarily control, but it's for sustainability and for long-term depth of talent that's going to build Australia's capability as a footballing nation. It sounds like there's still some challenges, I guess, for the establishment.
Yeah, and the golden age, to go back to the Vidukas and the Lazaridis, the Craig Moore, who was at
Rangers,
up in Scotland, and then in Germany. You've got Gian Alois, who's in Italy and France. You've got Bresciano, who's in Italy. Yeah. You've got Ufek Taleh, that was in Turkey. All these guys, but these guys came through when it was a national league, not a full national league, but just on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And there was like 23 teams.
Yeah.
And like there was no foreigners. So you've got like Viduka at, I don't know, 20. He was the top scorer in that league for 3 years. And got game time from 17 onwards, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all these guys played in that league and then moved at 17, 18, 19 with maybe 100 league games against men.
Surely there's a lesson in there.
That's the difference,
Yeah. But surely that's, for the Australian footballing authorities, that's got to be, a fair clear lesson.
Yeah, and that's the big question now. The big question is, how do we create an environment for our younger players to have more opportunity and still grow the league?
Yeah.
That's the big, it's a two-pronged thing, it's like cut the foreigners out, and you don't get Castro and Ninkovic and Mijiewski coming.
Yeah, you need examples. You need examples for young kids to stick the post walls in the bedrooms, and try and be like
Cantona going to Man U, he changed the whole scenario there because of his mentality and the way he trained.
Yeah.
Like our guys have been exposed to Castro. That's an experience. Fowler, like the guy from France we were speaking about earlier. You need that. You need that. So they need to grow both facets. So that's the challenge.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just come on to coach education. We're nearly an hour in. It's gone like that 5 minutes. Let's talk about coach education a little bit. What's we've discussed it a little bit briefly this week, but the UK and the English FA is a bit of a beacon, of kind of coaching development for globally now. I think it's like anything in life. If you're in it, you've got moans about getting on courses and moans about bureaucracy and politics and administration and so on and so forth. But the reality is, I think it's seen as a real beacon and bastion of coach education. How are we looking in Australia in terms of pathways for coaches?
Yeah, I think it's improved. When I first came, there was really nothing. When I first came out, and I guess that's probably why with having a UEFA license that I kind of got a little foothold into certain things. So again, good timing for me, quite fortunate. But it's grown over the years. I think they've identified that as the A-League has come in over the last 12, 13 years. Yeah. So the development is then your coaches must have a pro license.
Yeah.
People didn't have C or B licenses, or they would go abroad to do their qualifications. Yeah. So because the A-League said you must have a pro license to coach in the top level, then all of a sudden they kind of went, okay, what do we need to do? Yeah. And they went and got some really good people in. I think the people do get maligned as well in any walk of life. I think it's normal to be critical. Yeah. But they've got some excellent people in. Rob Baum came from Holland early, then Hamburger. Kelly Cross, who's here, was head of like the coaching side of things, and he's now at Sydney FC running their whole academy and everything. He was absolutely top shelf. Rob Sherman, who came from the Welsh FA, he was the TD at the Welsh. Rob's top shelf. All these guys are absolutely excellent, and they've put something in place, and it's starting to grow, and it's starting to get run with, and it's starting to evolve, and I think it's in a good place here. Yeah, it is in a good place, and the ideas.
It must be a nice environment to coach in generally. Compared to pissing down rain in the up in Gateshead on a Tuesday night.
It's not good for me. It's not good for me with this and baldy nap, and I get burnt to bits. But yeah, I know what you mean. The pitches are mint. Yeah. The Australian kids are athletic. You know what I mean? And you've got a mix with the immigration side of things, Portuguese, Italian, English. Yeah. You get a nice mix of people. You see some of the boys coming through, and there's a nice mix and a different, a different style. Yeah. You're not all strong, raggy English lads from Newcastle or the Scousers or whatever. You've got Italians mixed in with the Spanish and the Uruguayan. So you've got quite an eclectic mix, which is really good. And you get that coach influence as well, because you've got all a mixture of different nationalities. So it's really good when you do get together. You can pick things off people and listen. Really? It's I've been fortunate and lucky, but I've really enjoyed my time, really, really. And hopefully there's a bit left.
Yes, yeah. Well, so just before I go onto the future for you, where do you stand on playing experience and the contribution that makes to a coach's capability or a manager's capability?
I think it's proven. Just because you've been a player doesn't mean you're a coach.
Yeah.
And just because you haven't been a player doesn't mean you're going to be a coach. So, I find there's a big thing that maybe not so much now, but a while ago in us that if you're English, that's it. You know what I mean? They had a bad rep, and for whatever reason, but if you maybe talk with a little bit of an accent and you couldn't get your English, you must be a good coach. It was crazy, but ultimately dig down, find out about the guy. What's he like? Brilliant. Find out, first thing, find about him as a person. Try and understand his morals and his values and what he stands for as a person. Yeah. And then drill down into his philosophy. What's he about football wise, Yeah. And you find just about everybody, I would say 90%, everyone cares because they love the game. They're all about the players generally. And it doesn't matter if you want to smack it in the corner or play out from the keeper. no matter what you've got, is that right or is that wrong? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's for me the big thing is find about the bloke, drill down into him, and then drill down into his football, and then take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Or have some, constructive discussions. I remember being the assistant, and I used to have massive battles with the gaffer. Absolutely, used to argue like hell over the centre forward. Branko Jelic played in the Bundesliga, top player, scored loads of goals. But the gaffer was one. Dave Mitchell played for Rangers, Chelsea.
Yeah, I remember.
He used to run around. Branks just stood still, but he scored goals. I said, we want goals, play Branks. Nah. And we used to fight like cat and dog.
Yeah.
And he was the gaffer, I was the assistant. And when we come out the room, I'm like 150% behind him.
Yeah.
Stop arguing like hell, you know what I mean?
Right. It's good friction, isn't it? You need to have that in a good team.
Good challenge.
Yeah.
Good challenge.
Yeah. Nice one. Yeah. Okay. So the future for you then? What do you fancy taking on? That you're not. I mean, I know you're involved now. I know you're working now. Responsible as a kind of, I think, like a technical director for a club in Western Australia. But what's your plans?
Yeah, just to work as possibly as I can at the best level available to me, and then to affect people.
Yeah.
That's it. End of story. Just to have some fun and make sure that everyone who's involved is enjoying themselves. We had a little saying in the institute, and it's some of the lads still use it now. Turn up with a smile and leave with a sweaty shirt. And anything in between, it'll fucking take care of itself because we take care of you.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. So if you come with a smile, it means you're looking forward to it. And if you leave with a sweaty shirt, you've worked your bollocks off.
Yeah, exactly. You're committed. Yeah.
Halfway there.
Yeah. Brilliant. So, okay. So final couple of questions. You talked about philosophy. You talked about knowing the person. You talked about, trying to build a profile and work out whether or not someone's got what you want as a coach. If I give you all the resources in the world, the ability to go and get whatever players, whatever technical staff, whatever facilities, whatever medical support, everything, then once you've got all that in place, what does your team look like? What sort of football does it play? What sort of characteristics? What would people say about a Kenny Lowe team if you went into Chelsea with Abramovich's money, for example?
I think at that level, it's different.
Yeah.
I think because it doesn't matter, because me, where I am, I would always go with character, attitude.
Yeah.
Only two things. Character, attitude. That's
Brilliant.
it. Yeah. That's it. You'll actually, if you've got that, and the other people don't show that and have got talent, you'll beat them. But if you can combine all three, and the talent being the third thing added in, not the first thing, it means that you've got a team who will actually, you've got players. For me, the big thing for me were not my players, but the players that I like to work with. Yeah. They actually help to make people alongside them even better.
Yeah.
I've got a kid, Andy Keogh, played at Wolves in the Premier League, played for Trapattoni.
Yeah, Irish international,
Yeah, 40 odd time. Centre forward, I signed him with Castro. Them two, you know what? Character and attitude, absolutely fucking 12 out of 10. Talent, 10 out of 10. It's the perfect mix.
Yeah.
Castro go walkabout on the left wing, ended up on the right wing. Shouldn't be there. We're going to get hurt. But Keogh's centre forward. He ends up a left back, Keogh.
Yeah.
He covers for Castro. He runs. And that's, if you get that, people, no ego, loads of empathy, care about each other, character, attitude and talent, you're halfway there.
Yeah, class. So, Kenny, I'm going to bring it to a close now. I've absolutely loved the conversation. You and I could talk for hours, days, whatever, whether it's about the difference between Mark Hume and Sam Kitchen, or whether it's the difference between Robbie Fowler and John Aloisi. There's so much, and what I love about you, I've said this to you already this week, but I want to reiterate this. I see you as a beacon for me, because you have worked between the non-league level. You've coached even with grassroots, with young kids who are coming through, who've gone on to the very highest heights in world football. But you've done everything in between. You seem to be still very well connected to both ends of the spectrum and everything in between. And I think you proved that I'm not going to call you a normal guy because you, in my opinion, you were an elite football man anyway. But you would prove inspiration for people like myself and many coaches out there who would look to try at some stage to progress between, you know, the kind of part-time game and the full-time game. And you've worked with some of the world's greatest players, and I think that in itself is a phenomenal journey, and I'm sure it's a journey you're proud of. But for me, and I hope that this interview kind of informs maybe this generation of British coaches that might not know so much about you, might not have studied you 20 years ago like I did, and you know, I think like I said, it serves me with inspiration. I think it'll serve other people with inspiration. The second thing I want to say is, I think you've highlighted that you can have all the technical knowledge in the world which you've accumulated over the years, and work with Mullenstein and work with, you know, top people in the game. But the reality is, it comes down to your connection with people and human traits, as to what you at this stage in your career, with all the knowledge and experience you've got, what you value. And I think that's important, because there's a lot of coaches out there, as they're working through their badges, as they're working through their life in football, maybe forget that and don't realise that till it's a bit too late. Not too late, but later than would have otherwise benefited them earlier in their career.
I would agree, and it's probably the biggest thing, that connection. If you can get a connection with someone, and you know what, I learned that through the people I played for.
Yeah.
And I always remember Barry Fry, and it still stays with me to this day, and I use it to this day. Is that I remember I was working and I didn't want to leave Barrow, and he wanted to sign me for Barnet. I'm working in London actually for an oil and gas company, and then playing for Barrow on the weekend. Yeah. I met him at Heathrow Airport.
So hang on. So you were working down south and playing up north.
Oh, class! I used to get the train from Middlesbrough to London on a Monday, come back on a Friday, and then Saturday drive over to play for Barrow, then drive back, and then Monday morning go back to London.
And yet on the other way, there was 3 of you at Barnet who used to travel from the northeast down to play football in London. You don't do things easy, do you?
Yeah, me, Showers and Mark Carter, Paul Shower, Mark Carter, 3 of us. But I met Baz at Heathrow Airport on the Friday afternoon. I'm actually flying back to Teesside, and the deal's been done, and it's sort of like there, we're talking, and he's trying to talk me into going, because I didn't want to go. And he said, he said something along the lines that loads of people have told me not to sign you. I said, well, why are you signing me then? I said, well, what did they say? He said, you don't run, you don't tackle, you don't head. I said, well, why are you sat here? He said, oh, you can play. He said, I've got loads of people who can run, tackle and head. He said, I need someone who can play. And I just started laughing. And I said, oh, well, so I don't need to run, don't need to tackle, don't need to head. He went, no, just come and play. I went, oh, it sounds all right. So I ended up signing on the conversation. But I always remember this. And he said to me, I never ask players to do something if I sign them that they can't do. So you'd sign someone, wouldn't you? And you know that he's a player and he doesn't tackle, he gets on the ball. But what's your first thing you do? Hey, run around. Well, you sign me, I don't run around. Yeah. And you know what he did to me? This is true, this. And so I played a few games, started really well, playing for Barnet, we're top of the conference, kicking on. And he's come one day, he's gone, he said, Losey, he said, I've noticed on goal kicks that you walk, you find out how far the keeper can kick it, and then you walk under the distance so it goes over your head and the centre half's got through. I went, yeah. He said, look, Dave Howells, captain, said he's got a bad neck. He said, so I don't really want him competing. He said, do me a favour. He said, just come back, put your hand, but you must put your hand on the chest of the centre forward. So he didn't say, come back and mark him in front. He actually said, put your hand on his chest. But basically, I could mark him in front, 5 yards in front. So, and he said, then, all you do then, when the ball comes, look, close your eyes, pull your neck in, just jump. I don't care if you win it or you're not. So
tortoise, yeah.
Let's see how tortoise up. So basically, I'm being a pest. So he's got me heading. Then he gives it the old. I played alongside a lad called Duncan Horton, who's the captain. Duncan used to run everywhere. Baz used to say, "Get the ball, give it to Losey." Disgraceful, really. Yeah. Duncan would just work everywhere. Bang, thanks, Duncan. And he'd come in this day, go, Losey, Dunk's got a bit of a hammy. He said, look, I know you don't like to run around. I know you don't like to tackle. He said, but just close your eyes, put your arms up, get your toe in. Can you help him out? He's got a hammy. If you don't, it's going to pop. If we lose Duncan, you're going to be doing it all by yourself anyway. Oh, okay, I'll help up. So within a season and a half, I got picked in the PFA team 2 years in a row when we got promoted, went to the league. I think I played for England semi-pro because of him.
Yeah.
At 29-year-old, he turned me into a footballer by not demanding, but by understanding and being really cute.
Brilliant.
Understanding the type of lad I was like an easy husband, but I was all for me mates and that. And he said, okay, the way to Kenny is, Kenny, go and help your mates.
Yeah. Yeah.
Run around. Win a
And he's
header.
And he's found, he's found a way to motivate you. He's found a way to get a tune out of you that no other manager up to that point had done.
Top shelf, and I still remember that to this day. Brilliant. Never ask you to ever do what I don't think you can do, but he never ever said that he wouldn't try and get it out of me somehow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Class.
Just brilliant. The guy was top shelf.
Yeah.
Top shelf. I wish I met him when I was 18.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, hindsight's 2020, isn't it? Having that knowledge and that guidance earlier would have been brilliant. But you still had a pretty good career. I mean, listen, we've talked for an hour and 15 minutes now. You've not mentioned once that you went and played at places like Anfield and what have you. And you know, we talked about your non-league. Well, regardless, pal, listen, there's not many people who can say that. And you've mixed it. You know, when you went to Birmingham, you've played with some top players and against some top teams. And so, like I said before, you have been everywhere between my level of football and you know, the world's very best players. And I think that's something to be proud of for you and something that I look to. And like I said, I think a lot of people would look to you as someone who has had an incredible journey. So. Yeah,
very much so. No, I appreciate you taking the time and to reaching out as well. So I've really enjoyed today.
Mate, it's been an absolute class. Thank you for your time. I've enjoyed it. You know, we said we could just sit there and talk football anyway. But why not share it with the world? Why not share it with people who I think are gonna maybe learn a little bit? If nothing else, they might just kick back and enjoy listening to you yabber on about football for a bit and me yabber on, because I know me personally that would suit me down to the ground. So thank you, Kenny. Wish you and your family all the best, and you know, whatever the future holds for you at the moment, we'll stay in touch. Maybe we'll do another one of these when you've added a little bit more to your another chapter or two to your book.
I'd love to, yeah. And also, if there's any guys out here, I'll drop them in, and maybe you can grab a couple of them. There's a few guys with really interesting stories.
I'd love to do that, Kenny. Thanks, pal. I appreciate your help. Top man. All right, great talking to you, pal.
And you, bud.
Cheers, Kenny. Bye, mate.
Cheers, mate.